Welcome back to Plague Scythe Studios, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about two of my favorite pieces of gear. Obviously the Fractal Audio AX8 and the Fortin 33 boost pedal. I'm going to be showing you how to emulate the overall effect of the Fortin 33 as well as the Fortin grind pedal, considering they do a very similar thing. So basically the Fortin grind pedal is the Fortin 33 to my knowledge. Maybe there's a couple more filters, and I do know there's a couple more decibels of boost available in the 33 pedal. This can also double as a physical switch between the channels on your real amplifier, but we really don't care about that feature. We're using digital amp modeling. So I'm going to show you how I achieve the overall effect of the grind in the 33. What's to note about this isn't a traditional overdrive pedal as much as it is just really a clean boost with a high pass filter to cut off some of the lower frequencies. I don't know the exact specs on that, nor do I know if there's any other trickery going on, but what I can tell you is the patch tutorial that I am about to share will get you way closer than ballpark range, and it should sound really good with about any amplifier. I also can't just do an apples to apples comparison. Plugging this into an AX8 does not yield the same result because you get input clipping, and putting it through the effects loop doesn't work exactly the way I want it to because you have to match input levels and that sort of thing. So the demos that I showed in the review of this thing does get the point across when I did it, but it doesn't exactly behave the same way as if you plug it in front of something like the rectifier back there. So yeah, sorry I can't show you that it sounds exactly like this does, but you will hear that the effect on the amplifier is definitely Meshuggah. So yeah, hope this is helpful, and let's get into AX8 Edit. So back here in AX Edit, we're going to start off with a fairly simple patch. The only peculiarities that you'll see here is I have a bit of a graphic EQ between the amp and the cab just for personal taste, and I have an enhanced block just to make it sound better in stereo for you guys listening. These settings you can copy exactly if you'd like to follow along with this patch, but I really don't care about the amp and cab combination. Just make sure it sounds good and it sounds the way you want to before we apply our little Fortin grind, Fortin 33 pedal trick here. So I'm using the Friet Deliverance D60M model. All my settings are here, didn't change anything else. A GQ is this, and the cabinet is a 1960B Marshall. Figure I would stick a little bit more with the Meshuggah style cabinet and impulse response sound. So with just this is what you're going to hear. So on its own, not bad whatsoever, just a little low gain for my taste, even though I do have the overdrive cranked up quite a bit, input drive only at 6. Whatever you choose, whether this be a 5150, Diesel Hagen, rectifier, whatever, just make sure that your amp and cab combination sounds good on its own together, because we're going to be not coloring this sound hardly at all. We're just going to be boosting it. So just for a little comparison, and ignore the animals screaming in the background because I have no other time to record this right now. So before I get into my trick with the Fortin pedals, I'm going to show you what this sounds like with a regular tube screamer. So I have the TS808OD, the non-mod version. It's just the regular overdrive, dialed in at the what I would call modern overdrive setting. So no drive, tone all the way up, mix all the way up, level all the way up. So this basically acts as close as a clean boost as possible for a tube screamer type pedal, and this is what you're going to get. Already a dramatic improvement. Sounds really good, especially with this amp. This amp is so grunty and already dialed in so well, you can't really screw it up. I have it this way, but you can dial it in about any way. You can get a variety of good tones out of it. That this sounds, you know, nice enough on its own. But as you can hear on the lower strings, you are still getting a little bit of muddiness, a lot of distorted overtones in the lower frequencies that could, you know, that could be stood to be cleaned up a little bit. And you're not going to be able to get that functionality with just a regular 808 tube screamer. So what does the Fortin 33 pedal do? Well, it does a couple of pretty simple things aside from it being a a foot switch to switch between channels on your amp. It and the Fortin grind pedal both dial off on the lower frequencies of your guitar, and it adds anywhere from 0 to 22 decibels of gain of clean boost. and I think it's only the Fortin 33 that does 22. I think it's the grind pedal that does 20, but either way, they're going to sound really similar. Now, I don't know what other circuits or filters were used in those pedals to be able to achieve the sound that they do. I'm sure there's a couple minor differences that, Friedrich Thorndahl wanted in the 33 that aren't present in the grind pedal, but we're trying to get in ballpark here. So just take what I do and use it as a blank slate for you to, experiment with on your own. So the first thing we can do is actually in the amp block and not in the drive block at all. So let's turn this off right now. And what we're going to do is apply a cut. And I've used this trick on the Randall Satan patch. And what this does is emulate a lot of what Mike Fortin's creations do, whether it be on his amplifiers or the pedal. And that dials back the low frequency, which is exactly what the 33 and grind pedals do. And whether this happens before the boost or after the boost in the pedal, I'm not sure. I don't think it's really going to matter either way in the signal chain. It still sounds good. Feel free to play with it as you see fit. But I've got the low cut here at 200 hertz, meaning anything that's coming into this amp's input that is below 200 hertz gets chopped off. And you can dial this anywhere from 0 to 1,000 on this. 1,000 is a little ridiculous. But what this does is eliminate those distorted overtones and really tightens up the bottom end. So let's just play at the 200 that I had a second ago, and I'll let you hear the difference. So here's no cut again. So we've added no extra gain, no extra drive, and already getting a lot more aggressive, tighter sound out of it because we're getting more high-frequency distortion, but it's clearer. You don't get the muddiness in the bottom end. So the second part of the equation is going to be based off of an FET boost, or a field effect transistor. It's just a type, another type of clipping that you can achieve in a pedal. So this is modeled, to my knowledge, after a real FET boost overdrive pedal, and what's cool about this is that the circuit is about as close as you're going to get in the Fractal Audio box to a pure clean boost as possible once you make one little small modification. You can use some of these other drives and do the same thing that I will, but you're going to get a little bit of dirtiness to your signal, and because the Fortin stuff is just pretty much clean boost, we don't want that. So the first thing I want to do is turn the clip type to null, which basically makes it a clean boost in this particular pedal. This turns off the FET overdrive, so you'll, instead of getting something that sounds like this, so what we've done is effectively removed any overdrive that is happening in front of the amp. All we're doing is just making this signal louder. So then I'm going to turn the level up to 10. As you can hear, that is more or less the same signal going through whether this thing is engaged or disengaged. You're going to get a little bit more bottom end through this particular pedal, and you could certainly play with the pre-EQ if you'd like to, but for, all intents and purposes, it's basically the same thing. Now what I'm going to do is crank the drive and the tone, and this should get you around that magical 20 decibels of boost. And the tone, I'm not entirely sure that 10 is where this would, normally be modeled on a Fortin 33. If you listen to the signal with the tone at 10 versus just the clean signal, you're going to hear a little bit more twanginess in the high end. So for instance, and not only that, it's already kind of acting as a little bit of a drive on its own to give you more distortion in the higher frequencies. Me, I like that, and I'm going to leave it that way, even though it may not be completely apples to apples to what the Fortin stuff does. So I want to boost the drive to 10 as well, and this will more or less give us as close to a clean boost with 20 plus decibels of boost as possible. So that's what the FET boost does with the null clip type. And then when we turn it all together with the cut in the low end, and this is what we get. In my opinion, this sounds and feels absolutely phenomenal. It may not be exactly apples to apples to how Fortin would actually wire his own pedals, but it gets the job done. It gets you the same effect. If it's too much, you can dial back the drive a little bit. That way you don't have so much on the decibel boost. Do the same thing on the tone if you think it's a little bit too twangy in the high end. But the great thing about this is you have plenty of room to experiment with a grind pedal or 33. You got one button, you got one knob that controls the drive, and that's it. You're stuck with it. So through the beauty of amp modeling, you can tailor the overdrive to the exact amp you're using. And, you know, using scenes and two different drive pedals, at least on the AX8, you can switch back and forth between multiple of them. And this logic will apply to about any other amp modeler that you can put a clean boost in. Just for funds, let's just listen to what it would sound with, you know, a good old dual rectifier. That's definitely a rectifier. Fizzy and boomy. But, I mean, this works without any amp. You can throw this in front of a JCM 800 and get a pretty sickening modern tone out of it. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, hope this was useful. You can, you know, be sure to modify this to your tone as you see fit, whatever amp combination, cab combination you're using. It'll probably help if you tweak the cutoff frequency, if you tweak the drive and tone here. Just make sure you have full range on the low cut and high cut here, unless you want to dial back the low cut there. I prefer to do it after the boost. Feel free to experiment. This is how I do it when I'm playing with stuff that I want the Fortin overdrive experience. This is how I go about it. So yeah, so I hope that was useful to a lot of you out there. I also hope that I continue to figure out how to model a lot of boutique gear like the Fortin 33 and grind pedals, so people out there like you who've spent over $1,000 on a single pedal board like the AX8 don't have to spend any more money and get you know, a bunch of different tones out of it. And this is why this thing is so freaking worth it to me, because I bought this before the 33 pedal was released and I could still get the same functionality out of it. Doesn't mean I don't love the Fortin pedal, but just be able to take it with me on the go, have it in any patch I want to, definitely valuable. So yeah, let me know what other stuff you'd like to see next. I do have a lot of things in the pipeline, but it doesn't hurt to have extra suggestions, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.